Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. We're in the season. I'm talking about the weather, but I guess this is a bit more than weather because there are global concerns about what we ordinarily refer to as weather. The weather is changing. We hear about global warming. We've heard about floods. In fact, NISA, that is the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, it has been, talking about this, and the Nigerian Meteorological Agency has long warned that the floods are coming, and that it's going to be sort of serious. People should be should be aware. In fact, they called it a flood alert, where many states in the country, including Lagos, Sokoto, Port Harcourt, rivers, are going to be affected by this flood. Okay, let's look at it. In fact, it's chilly now. And again, we've been talking about that. So that's this context in which I said the weather is changing. We have two experts this morning that will talk to us about this important subject matter. Let me first of all introduce Mr. Desmond Majekodunmi. Mr. Majekodunmi is a conservationist. He's known for his environmental and climate change activism. He's a certified experimental extension farmer for the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture in Ibadan, and operates MAP. That is that's Majekodunmi Agricultural Projects. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Yeah, I got that right. That's just, a tip of the iceberg. As I said, we have an expert. Our other expert in the house is, in fact, a technical advisor to the Director General of NISA, NIHSA. That is the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, Mr. Stephen Jabo, and as I said, he's the technical advisor to the Director General of NISA, Umar Ibrahim Mohammed. Good morning to you, Mr. Jabo. Thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah, good morning, sir, and thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. It is our pleasure. I'm going to come to you, but let me first of all ask Mr. Majekodunmi a question. You've long predicted, you've long said that, well, the global warming and the climate changes that we are seeing have long been, predicted by experts, and that all that we can do is support them. I understand that, but is that because this is a force of nature and there's very little that we can do about it? We're stuck. If nature is, rolling like this, I don't know, there's nothing that we can do, or is there?
Very, very deep question, because a lot of these weather occurrences are obviously driven by nature. However, what we are doing to nature is aggravating the frequency and the severity of these weather occurrences, these heavy, heavy storms, which is why the Secretary General of the United Nations, he now classifies some of these storms officially as rain bombs. He's no longer calling it just normal rainstorm. The kind of aberrant, massive amount of rain that will fall in a very short period of time. And this is because of the anthropogenic activity. That is what we human beings have been doing to the natural systems of nature that will normally bring rain. We take rain so much for granted. Okay, it's raining. But the whole process of how that rain actually comes and falls in your location, it is quite a complex science. Mm-hmm. And it is a science. Oh, it's right. It's quite complex, as I'm sure we'll be able to get more details from our expert who is also in the house there.
Okay, indeed. Therefore, let me come to you, Mr. Jabo. Maybe you could explain to us in brief because the concept of we're talking about climate change, we're talking about global warming, and please tell us how global warming, such as we have heard, leads to the storms Mr. Majekodunmi was talking about, and floods all over the place. One has heard that it's warm climates. When it is very warm, then the environment is able to absorb much more moisture, which ultimately has to fall somewhere. Komi de komi. And that is what we often experience as floods. But there's probably a more enlightened way of talking about this. How is it that all of this global warming leads to floods and storms?
Yes, climate change is a natural phenomenon which is caused by increase in temperature and erratic rainfall pattern. Like the first speaker said, it's natural thing, but also man's activity exacerbate climate change impact on the society and the ecosystem. Now, the two hydrological extremes that occur as a result of climate change are flooding and drought.
Okay.
Now, because of climate change effects, you are having heavy rainfall in some places leading to flooding, while in other areas we experience drought. Now, in Nigeria, we are in the peak of the rainy season. The months of July, August, and September are the peak months of rainy season in Nigeria. And therefore, this is the time we experience heavy flooding all over the country. Now, because our rivers are full of waters overflowing their banks, what we are witnessing nationwide now is river flooding, flash flooding, and urban flooding. Nigeria is blessed with many network of rivers. Now, the two largest transboundary rivers that originate outside Nigeria and flows into Nigeria and eventually empties its water content into the Atlantic Ocean are the rivers Niger and Benue. These two biggest rivers have several tributaries that originate within Nigeria and alone flow south-south with their confluence located at Lokoja, Kogi State. And therefore, this period, because it is period of heavy rains, the rivers carry a lot of water, thereby resulting into flooding and affecting people that are living along the riverbanks, the floodplains, waterways, and those areas that have low-lying topography. They are mostly affected now. Now, the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, in fulfillment of one of its mandate of flood forecasting and early warning, has been alerting the nation since 2013 after the devastating flood of 2012. Now, this annual flood outlook gives a detailed scenario of flooding that are expected to happen in the nation from the months of April to November, giving details of the magnitude of this flooding, the places that are expected to be affected by this flooding, and the time this flooding are expected to happen. Now, this year's annual flood outlook by the agency was unveiled by the Honorable Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Talumun Utef, at Abuja Continental Hotel on 10th of April 2025. Now, the highlights of that annual flood outlook were that about 1,249 communities in 176 local government areas in 30 states plus FCT falls within high flood risk areas. Similarly, more communities in more local government areas in 36 states plus FCT falls within moderate flood risk areas. Now, this is the peak period of rainy season, and this is also the peak period of flooding. And this flooding, like I said, are riverine in nature, flash flooding, and urban flooding. Now, we have to, as Nigerians, assess our level of vulnerability to flooding. And how do we know that you are vulnerable to flooding? One, if you are located or you do your business along the riverbanks, floodplains, waterways, or you are doing something or you live in low-lying area that is always vulnerable to little rainfall, then you are vulnerable to flooding. Now, the soil is saturated with water.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Jabo.
Little, yes.
Yes, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much. Let me just come in here, and I certainly am going to come back to you. But I wanted to bring the situation to Mr. Majekodunmi his attention. He already knows about it, and I'm talking about what I'm seeing here that the report, a report that has been published in June 2025, has said that since July 2024, 31 of Nigeria's 36 states have been inundated by floods, affecting approximately 1.2 million people. Now, this is in spite, Mr. Majekodunmi, of a 620 billion naira intervention fund that's been provided by the government. So I wanted to ask you, are you aware and indeed satisfied of how this money was put to use, and is it like enough 620 billion intervention fund to sort of prepare for what has been predicted by the professionals? 620 billion naira.
That's a considerable amount of money. There's no doubt about that. And if it is judiciously spent, it could help a lot. However, the problem goes even beyond that kind of money, because it has been classified by the World Meteorological Organizations, by the Space Research Organizations, by global geologists. It has been classified as the biggest problem humanity has ever faced. Global warming, yes. They were getting worried about this over 25 years ago, and they were now making computer predictions about certain weather occurrences that seem to be coming more frequently, certain occurrences which they call once in 100 years.
Okay.
But they were saying that these occurrences were coming maybe 10 times in that 100 years, and then more rapidly, even up to 5 times in 1 year. These heavy weather occurrences. So they were getting very, very worried about it. And now they were now warning, humanity, not just Nigerians. It's a global problem. They were warning humanity that we need to take very, very urgent measures to be able to adapt to the problem. And this is where we hope that amount of money has been going to, but not only just to adapt, but to mitigate against it. A major, major issue facing humanity. And, we're all on this little planet together, and this is our only home. We need to make sure we do the right thing and stop disturbing nature's natural systems. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. In fact, as I'm talking now, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I can assure you that over the next few years, the kind of floods and droughts our experts were talking about will become far worse than what we are experiencing now. So we need more of that money, and we need to ensure that that money is used judiciously in the right way to adapt to the problem and to mitigate against.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Jabo, in your view, in your opinion, has the 620 billion naira intervention fund that we are reading about, one, in your opinion, is it adequate, and how has it been used? And if not adequate, what's your recommendation here? And what exactly is money going to do? 620 billion, as Mr. Majekodunmi has just said, it's a sizable sum, but how is it being used?
Yes, it's a large sum of money, quite right. But then, when we look at the negative impact of flooding on communities, infrastructure, and the ecosystem, that money amounts to nothing. Because when flooding
I
occurs,
almost guessed, yes.
Yes, you have loss of lives, people are displaced, critical infrastructures like roads, bridges, railways, houses are destroyed, farmlands inundated, crops destroyed, and so on. So when you look at the quantum sum, the economic loss cumulatively from all this negative impact of flooding, it's amount to, I can say, billions of dollars. And 612 billion or so.
620 billion naira. But it's like a drop in the ocean.
620 billion, yeah. But what I want to say is this. Prevention is always better than cure. And when agencies like Nigeria Hydrological Services come out with annual forecast of flooding every year, we expect people to heed to these warnings even before the onset of the rainy season. Proactive actions are expected to be taken, particularly by those communities that have been predicted by our prediction to suffer high flood risks every year. Because, like I said, no amount of money can pay for a single life. So I will still want to advocate that let us try to prevent the damages.
Indeed.
By funding agencies.
Yeah, can I just come in here? Apparently,
yes.
I've also read in the reports that oftentimes, in spite of the alerts, danger alerts, states are generally ill-prepared to face the onslaught of these floods when indeed they do happen. Is that because, one, it's difficult to move, or people just don't take the warning seriously enough? And I can't imagine that that's the case. But what is since we know it's going to come, we have scientific methodologies for telling us that this is not soothsaying. There will be floods. And still, it manages to catch us unaware, which would point to a lack of preparedness. Where do you think that is coming from? Before I ask Mr. Majekodunmi the same question.
Yes, year in, year out, despite these predictions, flooding happens and people are affected, lives are lost. Now, the issue borders here on so many reasons. People are living in flood-prone areas, maybe not by choice. They build their house because the cost of land is more cheaper, and therefore they find it convenient to construct their houses there. The floodplains that are always inundated by flood waters are very rich in nutrients. The soils that are deposited by flood waters are so rich in nutrients, and the floodplains, don't forget, are centers of agricultural productivity. So a lot of farming happens during the rainy season and particularly in the floodplains. So people look at it as a means of their livelihood, and so they engage in farming in floodplains.
Okay, let me ask
also
one moment, sir.
Businesses.
I'm so sorry to be interrupting you this way. Do forgive me. But let me ask Mr. Majekodunmi, since he himself, you know, he's a certified experimental extension farmer in, you know, Lagos. I wanted to ask, what's the experience of Lagos? Because very rich soils and all of that, the flood will wash all of that away. And one would have thought that farmers, being, I hope that they are experts at their, is it the trade or the craft, at their job, would know about all of these things. So what has the experience been from where you are sitting in Lagos? Because you are in Lagos.
This is a very, very critical question. And I can respond based on the answer that my brother there gave, which I love so much. He said that prevention is better. Absolutely, so true. And what's the value of human life? You can't quantify it with money. Luckily, when I did my course at the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, which we're privileged to have in Ibadan, the immediate recommendation from them, when I said I want to do this farming in Lagos, they now advise me to do what they call agroforestry. And that is, we move into the forested area, but we don't disturb too much of the vegetative growth there. They said that this will help to prevent too much inundation of flooding. This will also help to ensure that the natural insects that would be there will be taken away by the natural avifauna that will be there. That is, the birds will prey on the insects, so you won't need so much chemicals. Anyway, we followed their advice. And definitely, when the heavy rains came, our crops were not too badly affected. We had to time it as well. But the beauty of that area, which was the Lekki area at that time, was that when the rains came, within no time at all, even though there might be flood for 1 or 2 days, the rest of the ecosystem, the mangrove ecosystem, immediately absorbed this flood water, which is what the mangrove does. This is nature's way of just, you know, being harmonious and being able to manage the various weather systems. But now it's a different story altogether. There's been so much dredging and sand filling. The mangroves have been moved away. When the rains come, as we're experiencing now in Lagos, immediately you get flood here, there, everywhere, which is so unfortunate because the rains are even coming heavier because of what we have been doing to nature, pumping millions of tons of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, but also because of the, what should I say, over-exploitation of nature's systems, especially the mangrove system and so on. So there's a lot to learn. It's not too late. And on a final note, one of the preventive measures that must be taken and I'm surprised it wasn't taken all during the end of last year, beginning of this year, is dredging the streams and the rivers that will carry the water away because they've been silted up because of too much deforestation.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, that's an important point. I remember it because I saw some activity from the Lagos state government. Since I was talking about Lagos, I saw some activity that Lagos is going about desilting canals. So that would, you know, tie in with what you were talking about. But this is just Lagos. The agency also says that Sokoto State has a very high risk of experiencing flash floods. You also have Kaduna, Zamfara, Yobe, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Jigawa, Adamawa, Taraba, Niger, Nasarawa. You know, as I said, something like 19 states, 31 states out of the 36. So you see that it's a very serious matter. But before I go further, Olatoye Drosimi has been on the line wanting to join the program. Good morning to you, Mr. Drosimi. Okay, I can see that you're talking.
Good morning. This is the IG Drosimi.
Okay.
The problem of global warming is an international problem, and it's affecting the whole world. But in Nigeria, what are we doing to alleviate the suffering of the people? For instance, look at the River Niger. It came to Nigeria through the Niger Republic. We cannot do anything to that. But somewhere in Kebbi State, there's a way that can be a dam that can actually contain the water coming from Niger State into Kebbi State. That is controlled, and the Kanji Dam itself is deposited. All the sand that are deposited there, making sure it is causing a lot of flood because the retention capacity of Kanji Dam has been reduced. Over the years, we've not been removing the sand there. I suggest if we can build another dam somewhere in Kebbi State, it will retain most of the water that's been that are going away by force from the Kanji Dam. The same thing, look at River Benue. I don't think that there's any dam along that road, along that river. The whole water, once it's released from Cameroon, it will come directly to Nigeria, and the whole states along the plain will be having the problem. Anambra, Niger, Kebbi, Imo, rivers. We must do something to prevent this. We cannot sit there and say global warming, global. What are we doing to prevent it from creating havoc in Nigeria? Look at most of the water, river plains. It's actually taken over by people who are developing housing.
Well, okay. Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Drosimi, retired AIG Drosimi. Thank you very much for calling in. Luckily, we have an expert with us. So, Mr. Stephen Jabo, what would be your commentary on his suggestions that you just heard?
Yes, he's talking about mitigation measures that can be taken to mitigate the negative impact of flooding. Mm-hmm. Now, mitigation measures are a combination of structural and non-structural measures. What are the structural measures that we can take? Like he's talking about construction of dams and reservoirs on our rivers to curtail and control the flow of excess flood waters that we witness during this period of the year. We can equally construct flood walls, levees, embankments to prevent inundation of land by water. Detention and retention basins can also be created to control storm waters that could be used later during the dry season. Now,
been given an award, but I think it is by Deutsche Welle for your effort.
Funds, and there were big funds at that time. We're talking about 15, 20 years ago. You know, well, they were
power.
Jabo and Desmond Majekodunmi, both of them joining us remotely, and we're looking at global warming.
Concrete in pavement.
Oh, okay.
Concrete in pavement.
Oh, okay.
And so,
okay.
And so, water when it full, water when it full,
agricultural development. It looks pretty. It looks
nature.
In most places, people build houses before they go and seek approval plans. And in most cases, they build along water channels, drainages, and waterways. So when the authorities come and say this is a greener area, can't build there, they fight them, they use power and money to assign themselves, and then they remember, you expect nature to also behave like human government? We don't do that. We are even attempting to tame an ocean. In some countries, they push ocean back with sand and expect the ocean to obey it. It's human beings that should use nature as it was given to us. Or if you misuse it, then you wait for the reaction. Our way of life is what we should be addressing.
Okay.
Not, how to address what has already happened.
Okay.
You address the cause of a problem before you address the effect. But we seem to be addressing only the effect without addressing the cause. The cause is in our behavioral patterns in different communities of the world. I'm sure Mr. Majekodunmi understands what I'm saying.
Of course.
The background of where he's speaking from, you can see nature. How many of us are conscious of things like that?
No, Mr. Majekodunmi lives differently. The man is living in a nature paradise.
In that plot of land. Are you supposed to bring all the trees down and later on you start looking for trees to plant around the road? It's not meant to be like that. That's the problem. We must understand it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jabo, do you agree with that, caller, that somehow, well, he didn't imply that, but let me just go ahead and imply it myself. We, as Nigerians, don't seem to be friends of the earth in that way, of taking it that seriously. I've mentioned this before, in far-flung places, people are so very close to nature, they think of doing anything to harm nature as effectively harming themselves. But I don't know that people see the waterways and all of this as anything more than a sort of refuse disposal system. Do you think NISA, might educate us on how to go about this, our care for the earth, because at the end of the day, it's all we have to support us, as Mr. Majekodunmi was just saying in there. Is it that we don't have that sense of we met it and we've got to maintain it, and if possible, even improve it before we move on? What are your thoughts in this regard, sir?
I agree with the last speaker, but then as long as rain keep falling, we'll always expect flooding in some areas and drought in some areas.
That is simply geography.
Yes. So now, NISA, like I said, apart from its annual flood outlook, giving details of flooding from before the onset of the rainy season to the end of the rainy season, we now come out weekly with flood notification alert. The last alert we gave is expiring today to cover a period of July 22nd and August 5. So by today, we are coming out with another flood notification for the coming week. And what are these notifications? Now, in this notification, we give those communities, the local government areas they are located, and the state are given in this weekly notification. Now, the alert number, the alert level, either it is warning or red alert.
Okay, it's categorized by numbers.
Yes, it's categorized. The period of the forecast is also given.
How do you categorize the most important emergency? What is the the highest categorization? that this is real top-level danger? Is it 1 or is it 5? How does it work?
No, we look at it by the water level level in our rivers.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
we monitor water level in our rivers 24 hours. And when we see the water level reaching certain threshold, then we can classify it as a warning level or a red alert.
Okay, warning or
So
red
that's
alert.
The alert. Yes, that's the alert level.
Does red alert mean people have to evacuate in their own interest?
Yes, red alert is already, you are in flooding. You see, when we said those communities that we are forecasted, we have given the period this flooding is going to occur, the time and the location. So already, like I said, if you are living in flood-prone areas like riverbanks, floodplains, waterways, low-lying topography, you are already vulnerable to flooding. And the time, like for instance, this is the peak of rainy season, this is August, and we are witnessing flooding everywhere. Those communities that we have given information about, they don't need to be waiting. They need to relocate to high ground or flood-safe corridors before they are caught up with the flooding. Don't wait until flood caught up with you, then you expect NEMA to come or SEMA to come to take you to higher ground. We expect people to be safety conscious. Move yourself out of danger zone before that flooding happens. That is what we expect people to do. They are to move to safer grounds before flooding comes. But like I said earlier,
yeah, it doesn't happen like that.
People are people are reluctant to move. Now, in this, our weekly notification, what are the risk flood causing factors? The river that will cause that flooding is mentioned in that alert. The road that will be impacted are mentioned in that alert. Because you may not be living in those flood vulnerable areas I mentioned, you might be traveling along a road and you can be caught up by flooding. So the roads that are to be impacted by this flooding are mentioned in that report. And then our recommendation to the emergency management agencies to prepare themselves for flood emergency protocols. And then those communities that we have already predicted to suffer heavy flooding, they are to be on high alert and be ready to be evacuated when the need arises.
Sorry, sir. I wanted to find out. Sorry, sir. I must come in. I wanted to find out all these things you just explained. When you've put them out, have they been used, such as to mitigate the effects that you are trying to warn us again? What is your experience there?
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
That is what I'm saying. In some state like Bayelsa, they have taken proactive actions. But what we are seeing is that it's like people are not heeding to the advice and the warnings we are given. That is why we still suffer casualty. Human lives are lost. So, yeah, assuming if people adhere to our warnings, they could be safe and their life could be safe.
Okay, Mr. Majekodunmi, sorry, sir.
These recommendations.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Majekodunmi, what is your experience about that particular point where he says, look, we do all that we can, we bring all the knowledge, put it on the table, metaphorically speaking, but people don't seem to take it as seriously. What's been your experience, your observation of this, and how does it affect where you are situated, located? Because I can see, I don't know if it's a picture or if it's real, but I can see a lot of green behind you, but I know you tend to live, as green a life as possible. What has been your observation? Did you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I heard you, yes.
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yes. The green you're seeing is where I'll be in the next half an hour. So that's my agroforestry farm. So I keep the picture with me just to remind me. Yes, actually, to be honest, the NIMET and sister agencies, NITSA and all those, we're actually very privileged to have that quality of information coming from them. They obviously have good equipment and they're utilizing it well. Their warnings have been very, very accurate and very precise. However, part of the issue is, okay, some group of people are given flood warning to move. And it can be very, very difficult for some of those people because they'll just be hoping and hoping, well, maybe the flood won't come, because where will they move to? We need to really, really up the ante when it comes to that. I know we have, camps and so on, but we need to, when we see the way some other countries are doing it, and we are the giant of Africa. This is Nigeria, for God's sake. But we're not, we need to really, really get going with that, so that people will know they're going to be safe, especially if they are children. You see situations in our IDPs and so on, and it's very, very, very painful and terrible. This could be one of the main reasons, but again, prevention is better than cure. And as my brother said, we need to be, silting, desilting the rivers and banks and putting, walls, and just ensure that the flooding will not be too much. We can do it. The capacity to do it is there. We know what to do, but we need to just be encouraged that it needs to be done. Because again, on a final note, we'll go briefly into the metaphysical aspects of it. Physically, you do against nature, she does you back. But if you do the wrong thing, metaphysically, it comes back to you.
That's right.
Retribution is real. The fire is real.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Majekodunmi. Really appreciate your time. We've run out of the stuff. That is time. But Mr. Jabo, I also, deeply appreciate your knowledge and sharing all of that with us. But it's a situation. It's not an impossible situation. It is difficult, as it is anywhere in the world, but it's not an impossible situation. That's what Mr. Majekodunmi has just been saying. You probably agree with that.
I absolutely agree with him. If we do the needful, like he said, we can do that. We can reduce or eliminate the negative impact of flooding on the society by doing the necessary things. Like I said, we can do a combination of structural and non-structural measures.
We're going to have to leave it there.
I can tell you that.
We're going to have to leave it there, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
I want to thank you very much. Mr. Stephen Jabo is technical advisor to the DG of NISA, Umar Ibrahim Mohammed. And we also had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Desmond, Majekodunmi, conservationist. He's especially known for, his efforts, on climate change activism and indeed of planting trees. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. Okay, we're going to have to leave it. We're going to have to leave it here. But do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Do you have the fitness level you really want? Have you paid for gym membership and never gone again? Are you struggling with exercises that don't deliver results? Or do you find yourself spending hours in the gym with little to show for it? Traditional workouts can be boring and ineffective. You need a solution that combines efficiency, versatility, and delivers results. Introducing the Sports X Ultimate Total Crunch, the Super 6-in-1